So, dear students, yesterday we have started the legislature syllabus and we took the brief on the legislature syllabus. Today we have executive and then judiciary.
కాలేజ్
Now, in
వచ్చింది చాలా
executive, what
బాగుంది
you would have in the
బ్రహ్మాండంగా ఉంది
syllabus, that is structure, functions, and then privileges, and after that we have formal and informal associations influencing the executive, formal and informal groupings. In this case, we have pressure groups in our syllabus. I have prepared the notes for these pressure groups. I will share it to Seshank now. Now, in the structure, we have the traditional areas like President of India, Prime Minister, what are the court judgments, what is caretaker government, what is the role of caretaker government. These all the things we come under structure. When we go to the structure further, we have prime ministerial government. Why today's Modi's government is called prime ministerial government? Now, in this case, the second part of the discussion, obviously, the structural issues. What are the structural issues we have? President versus prime minister. So, from the Jawaharlal Nehru onwards, we have this particular system. So, the Babu Rajendra Prasad on Hindu Code Bill has differed with Nehru, and he said Prime Minister President is not an just a titular head, but he is a real executive. The debate, between Rajendra Prasad versus Prime Minister, and the second is when Rajiv Gandhi was the Prime Minister, Gnani Jail Singh versus Rajiv Gandhi, and third is presidential position in Indian constitution. Is he a titular head or is he a real authority? In this context, functional wise, when we talk about the president, we need to differentiate between the Queen of England and President of United States of America. That is the first thing. So the question may come up over here. Indian president meets Thames rather than Mississippi. So it means Indian president is designed on the lines of the Queen of England, but not on the President of United States of America. But however, he is also different from the Queen of England. How he is different? It means you need to talk about the situational discretion of the President of India. So the situational discretion at the time of elections, in the case of hung parliament, in the case no confidence motion is passed to call alternative government, all these, Article 78, all these are the discretionary functions of the President of India. So in this case, remember, Neelam Sanjeev Reddy's example. Neelam Sanjeev Reddy did not call Babu Jagjeevan Ram after giving a chance to Chaudhary Charan Singh after Morarji Desai government has fell. So Morarji Desai, Chaudhary Charan Singh were given an opportunity, but not Babu Jagjeevan Ram, and he went for elections. That is the discretion of the President of India. And then calling one to form the government. So, and during National Front times, he first gave the opportunity to Rajiv Gandhi to form the government. After Rajiv Gandhi denying it, it was given to the National Front. And the next is Mr. Narayanan, when he became the president, he started a new trend altogether. What he did is this: rather than going for the single largest party, the party or coalition which can give stability that has to be called to form the government. Rather than the numbers, we have to call for the faction or group that can give stability to the government. So, in this context, calling the single largest coalition which has crossed 273 numbers started with Mr. Narayanan. And then Prime Minister versus presidential friction. So Mr. Narayanan was more radical as a president. When Mr. Clinton visited India, Mr. Narayanan made one statement: America cannot be a global police before the Clinton, and which was a bit irritant to the government of the day. And the next is when Bihar, when presidential rule was imposed, Narayanan did not sign it. So there was a friction between Mr. Narayanan and then Prime Minister Vajpayee. And but when two different poles are there in the Prime Minister and presidential office, how shall they reconcile with each other? Modi and Mr. Pranab Mukherjee, these are the examples. So you write answer with the live examples in Indian from Indian politics. So when you write live examples like this, Neelam Sanjeev Reddy example, the coordination between Prime Minister Modi and President Pranab Mukherjee, conflict between Gnani Jail Singh and Rajiv Gandhi, where Prime Minister did not see the President for over 3 months, and then Fakhruddin Ali Ahmed, without asking a question to the Prime Minister, he has signed the national emergency. So in this context, Fakhruddin Ali Ahmed's example can be stated as President not asserting his power. Narayanan, President asserting his power or overstepping his role. So, Mr. Pranab Mukherjee, how to make his government work better, that's what it is. When Mr. Kalam was the president, he has signed the president's rule in a state from abroad. That was also said to be skeptical. And then Mr. Kalam is called as the people's president. So it means how Indian president of India, how this office got evolved, that we have to focus upon. And then the president's office and its powers are not just decided by letter, but it is also decided by the person who is in the office. That is what is the conclusion we need to get in when we talk about the functions of the president of India. And the next is coming to prime minister, and then the prime minister's position depends upon his position in the party. So that's why every prime minister wants to have his loyalist in the party. So if you can remember Nehru versus Tandon, so Mr. Tandon was opposing the Nehru, and finally Nehru wanted to get rid of him, especially with regard to anti-Hindi agitation. So before that, Mr. Tandon wanted to impose Hindi on the South Indians, which was opposed by the Nehru. So Mr. Tandon and Mr. Nehru, there was conflict. After that, every prime minister of the Congress wanted to have a president of his own in the party. So if you remember the syndicate politics of the Congress, the syndicate wanted to control the prime minister, and Indira Gandhi revolted against the syndicate and took the party into her control. So for prime minister's position in government depends upon his position in party. And the next is Nehru enjoyed the respect in India because he enjoyed the respect abroad. And then the prime minister, how the elections were won. It means the elections were our more presidential style or parliamentary style. In India today, elections are presidential style happening in the name of the prime minister. And the next is the coalition partners, and then the major party vis-a-vis coalition, is it enjoying the majority or not? The status of the coalition, and then majority in Lok Sabha. These are all the factors that determines the position of prime minister. In this, you can compare with Manmohan Singh, P.V. Narasimha Rao, and our Modi today, Vajpayee Modi. All this, if you can compare, then you can write a very good answer on coalition politics and its influence on Indian political system. And the next is, okay, this is about structure. And then with regard to pressure groups, I will give you the notes. Please go through that notes. But in the executive, we spoke about ministries and departments. Let us talk about these ministries and departments in the executive. So here, All India Radio, that is today Prasar Bharati, it was very much in conflict when Miss that woman Smriti Irani was there in the office. Prasar Bharati versus the present day, what do we call it as, the Department of Communications. So this conflict, how these Prasar Bharati, an independent corporation, has to be independent from the department. So department thing we need to talk about. So autonomous institutions and the departments, that's one thing we have to focus on. SEBI and Ministry of Finance, how their relation has to be. With regard to that, yesterday's newspaper, if you observe, we have Ministry of Finance wants to control SEBI more and more. And similarly, conflict between Ministry of Finance versus RBI. Please go through that once. So like this, you can take institutional examples where departments and autonomous institutions, independent regulatory authorities and departments, this is what we have to focus upon. So, and the next part of this is we need to go on judiciary. So when we talk about judiciary, remember one thing. Appointment of judges is always a controversy. In this context, the present government wants to be assertive with regard to appointment of judges. So in this case, classical examples, we need to talk about Hansraj Khanna's case. So emergency judgment, which we popularly call it as, where a person of their choice was promoted by executive. And the next is, whenever we have a strong executive in office, is judiciary is becoming subservient, or judiciary is unable to be assertive. So strong executive versus judiciary. And the next is, recently a person who is appointed as a judge, let's take Mr. the Chief Justice of India and a case against him. In this context, the sexual offences are indecent conduct by the judges, and what is the action we have before us? It means only the punishment we have is removal. So, in this context, judges' accountability is the question. How to bring in judges' accountability? So, judicial appointments where judicial autonomy is important, independence is important. On the other side, how to make the judges accountable? There is a debate between these two. So, if we want to make judges accountable, only way is through the parliament, through impeachment, which is difficult to achieve. Then what shall be done? So, National Judicial Appointments Commission Bill was declared as unconstitutional. National Judges Accountability, and that bill also is being not passed by the Parliament. So, how to resolve this debate is the major thing before you. And the second thing is, with regard to judiciary itself, is judicial independence is becoming judicial activism? This is a standard question. And the third is, how to improvise the functioning of the judiciary in India. So, with regard to judiciary, how shall we improvise it? So, pending cases, quality of judgments, and all these things we need to talk about. So, last year when I was talking about, I thought there will be a question on judicial accountability, especially with regard to appointment procedure need to be improved. So, the collegium system is outdated. How to improve the collegium system, I was expecting as a question, especially that High Court judge from Kolkata, Tamil Nadu judge, who has issued arrest warrant against all Supreme Court judges. So that person issue, when it has come up in the news, this collegium, is it making the right choices? That's what is the issue before us. So what are the weaknesses of the collegium functioning? So how to improvise that? That is what the another question will be. Till date, the memorandum of procedure was not devised for the appointment of judges. So when Kehar was the Chief Justice of India, so they wanted to devise a memorandum of procedure which goes beyond the collegium to appoint the judges. This memorandum of procedure has not come into existence even today. So that's why, what are the weaknesses of the collegium? Try to think onto it. So judiciary, so strong executive, is it worrying the judiciary? And the second, judicial independence versus judicial accountability. And then let us see Supreme Court as an institution. In when we see this, Chief Justice of India, how he is different from other judges? That is one thing. And then Supreme Court as an institution, is it a popular institution or a legal institution? How did it function more as a popular institution in India through its judgments, rather, I mean, over and above the legal institution? It also brings us close to judicial activism. So, Supreme Court as an institution of democracy. So, critical evaluation of the functioning of the Supreme Court till date. That is one thing which we have to emphasize on. And the Supreme Court functioning and the norms of democracy we have to verify. So, these are the things which we need to focus of focus on. So this is judiciary. This is what we need to talk about. So executive and judiciary we have to focus on, right? And I have a commitment for you to teach that Uma Kapila's notes. And I think today I am traveling to Bangalore. By tomorrow I will try to finish off that commitment of economy for you. I also got economic survey. I will focus this week on that. Okay, judiciary, executive. These are the areas which you need to focus upon. Any other issues? Please let me know. Let's go for doubt session now.